Hi, I'm Jennifer Potter, Executive Director of Be Well Texas. Too many people are struggling alone these days, and alcohol and drug deaths are increasing. We started Be Well Texas to offer high-quality, science-based addiction treatment and recovery services anywhere, virtually or in person. In many cases, there is no cost for treatment or medications if you don't have insurance. Really. Welcome to Be Well Texas. We're glad you're here. Visit bewelltexas.org.
What's going on out there, everyone? Hope you guys all had a very Merry Christmas with friends and family, and I hope you didn't miss us too much as our game recap of the Myrtle Beach Bowl was a little bit delayed by the holiday, but we are back. This is your host, Jared Kalmas, joined as always by my co-host, Adrian Bermudez, to recap and break down UTSA's impressive 44-15 victory over Coastal Carolina in their home stadium at Myrtle Beach.
Yes, the first road win of the season for the Roadrunners. The second bowl victory for the Roadrunners, back-to-back bowl victories now, Jeff Traylor. A win that gets UTSA over 500 overall on the season. An absolutely massive thing to be able to lean on for this team going into 2025. Jeff Traylor, going into the game, described this game as the first game of the 2025 season for the UTSA Roadrunners. It was important for them to get this victory, Jared, and to do it in convincing fashion. Granted, UTSA did play Coastal Carolina's backups and third strings for the majority. This was not, a starting 500 Sunbelt team that, and not at full strength that UTSA went up against. However, they got a victory in a fashion that they ought to against a team that is not at full strength, a team that is depleted of its starters in a bowl victory in which UTSA has all of its starters damn near to a degree, minus a couple of key guys. So 44-15 ends up being the final score for the Roadrunners. It's convincing. It's chippy. It's nasty, but UTSA dominates overall, Jared.
Yeah, they really took care of business here. I mean, Coastal very obviously was missing. You could feel, I think, the guys that were missing from their lineup. Even that first series that Coastal had, where they elected to receive, which was surprising to me. And I think they had like a false start or an illegal procedure like before the first snap of the game, which kind of set the tone. They were very clearly, immature, unprepared, and just missing a huge chunk of their roster. And you could really tell in special teams as well. I had a feeling that UTSA was going to have a big return because if you were watching, you could see like guys weren't in the right lanes for Coastal, and just a lot of athleticism missing. I'm sure they had a lot of walk-ons out there playing special teams, and then sure enough, we saw Chris Carpenter break off his long, super easy return touchdown. Like, I don't even think he was touched. He didn't even really have to break a tackle or anything. It was just wide open. So I don't know. I could have understood if Coastal would have opted out of this bowl game because they were very, very, very undermanned, I guess you could say. But
absolutely,
UTSA did what they had to do.
They did what they had to do. So aside from a very, very slow start, I think, from the Roadrunners.
Yeah.
And because they adjusted and sort of figured it out rather quickly once the second quarter got going, I think that's fine. UTSA puts up 21 points in the second quarter and kicks things into gear, but it's a scoreless 0-0 game at the end of the first quarter. And UTSA kind of seems to be lacking energy, but also it's 10 a.m. It's on the East Coast. It's 2 days before Christmas. It's kind of a wacky time. It's Monday morning. It's kind of a wacky time for a team to be playing a football game. You like to see them a little bit more sharp coming out, but it's fine. And you haven't played football in I guess 3 weeks either, Jared.
Yeah.
So, we'll chalk it up to getting the rust off.
I guess we should clarify too. It was only a slow start for the offense. The defense came out ready to play, really dominated from the first snap. No let up with them. They gave up 2 scores, but on a play-by-play basis, they were just really handing it to Coastal. But on the offensive side, I thought the play calling on the first two drives was super, super basic, super vanilla. Just a lot of screen passes, a lot of inside zone, right? And then after those two drives stalled out, we saw in the second half Justin Burke open up the playbook a little bit and actually started running some plays that we haven't seen the Roadrunners run before. Some pretty cool stuff. One that stood out to me was they had Brendan High lined up as a receiver, and then they kind of brought him in motion, and then they motioned him back out. So then there were four passing threats, whether they were receivers, tight ends, running backs, whatever, all on one side of the field in kind of a quad diamond kind of formation. Yeah. And then they kind of just tossed it out to Brandon High, and he had all these blockers in front of him. And I think he got 25 yards on that play. A lot of cool little wrinkles like that. There was some play action stuff that was really nice and exotic. So I think once UTSA got past those initial scripted plays, those first two drives, and they start to, play a little bit more free, and play more off of what the defense was showing than what they came in the game planning to run, that's when you see them start to flourish a little bit. And then they were able to start just kind of pouring it on the Chanticleers.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. And let's talk about that offense for a little bit as it kind of started to get things figured out. Brandon High with a really tremendous game, 11 carries, 76 yards, nearly 7 yards per carry for Brandon High. And you look at the productive day of a very young running back group, because you also had a lot of yards from Bryson Donnell and Willie Henderson. Willie Henderson, 81 yards on the day, just 5 carries. He had a 51-yard run for a touchdown. It was really, really impressive. Bryson Donnell, 5 yards per carry, 7 carries for 35 yards. It's very, very productive from a young group of running backs. And then you talk about the little things that we saw the offense try out that looked different. Justin Burke trying different things out. And maybe that's sort of what Jeff Traylor is hinting at when he's talking about the first game for the 2025 Roadrunners, is seeing some of this youth, but also not just trotting them out there, but maybe having some stuff designed for a more youthful roster that we might see a whole lot of in 2025.
Yeah, I think there's a good possibility. We saw Will Henderson get 5 carries, and 2 of them were really long runs. One of them was a touchdown run. So, if they're able to find a way to get him, those 5 to 8 touches per game, he's probably never going to be your go-to every down back, just given his, lack of size. But if you can use him as kind of that lightning in a bottle type of change of pace back, that's super encouraging, right? So yeah, it's just cool to see the youth on that offense. I mean, if you go back and you look at the box score and you highlight the guys that are looking like they're going to come back next year, we still have one more portal window to get through. The first window closed yesterday. But if you just highlight those guys that should be back next year, man, this is very encouraging, and on paper should be one of, if not the top offenses in the American next year. So it's and of course when you have Owen McCown come back to lead the way, it makes things a whole lot easier for sure.
Well, how about Owen McCown looking, I think, the most comfortable we've seen all year, just taking off with the with the football and running it. The dual threat ability, I think, was really shown as well when we talk about the different things that the UTSA offense was doing. Owen McCown, I think, ran for over 9 yards per carry. He only had 4 scrambles, but they were all wide open, just wide open first downs that he didn't hesitate at all to just take it and run with. Lowered his shoulder a couple of times. I think he got told something on the sideline because he did start sliding after the first or second one, which was good. You saw him make that adjustment mid-game, but every time he took off, it was a very comfortable situation. And I think earlier in the season, you would have seen him sort of wait on those, but he was taking it and running in stride really, really well against Coastal. And also had a great day passing the football, 23 completions, 23 out of 30. The 1 touchdown, 1 interception, but he picks up another touchdown with his legs. So I think of just a productive day, but a little dual threat showing from Owen McCown as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the play that he scored on, I think, was a designed quarterback run, or maybe a zone read, right? But I don't think that one was a scramble. And I think UTSA has run some of that zone read this year, but you haven't seen Owen really take the initiative to pull it out and take off and run the football. And defenses have definitely keyed in on that, right? I think defenses haven't really respected the quarterback runs so much on those read option plays. So to see him pull one and fight his way to the end zone was pretty cool. Not sure if he stepped out on that play or not. It was very, very close, but UTSA clearly was going to score regardless. But just a very cerebral game from Owen. We've seen him struggle on the road. Wasn't really the case in this game. He had that one interception that was really bad. I think he threw that one off his back foot under pressure. Just no reason to make that throw.
It was bad. No reason to make that throw. Yeah.
You take away that one bad throw, and he played really, really clean, really smart football. Did a good job, feeding the ball to his playmakers. Good placement on his throws. He had one great throw that I think was to Overmeyer. That would have been a touchdown. And
went right through his hands. Should have got to come down with that. But Overmeyer got his hands on it. You got to come down with it when you get your hands on it. Oh, that was tough to see from Overmeyer, who otherwise had a really, really impressive game. And then as far as production goes with their hands, David Amador yet again just reliable in every single way for UTSA. He's all over the field. 110 yards, another 100-yard game for David Amador. 7 receptions. It's really just unbelievable. There was a prop bet that I had a buddy text me about. And it was like, hey, dude, what do you think about over under 55 yards for David Amador? I was like, that's the easiest free money I've ever heard of in my life. He had it on like 3 catches. And like the second quarter, he had like 3 for 57. I was like, wow, I hope you took it, bud. And look, it's just automatic. He's every single day he's automatic. Really, really productive, fantastic day from him.
Yeah, we saw this in the Army game too, but it's so nice to see Amador and McEwen healthy and on the field together, because that's what UTSA's offense was supposed to look like all year long. And to see those two guys, kind of sharing the wealth, right, out there in terms of targets and yards after catch and stuff like that, it's awesome. And I think there's probably more that UTSA will do next year to really establish McEwen as the downfield threat that he certainly has shown he's capable of being, and then have Amador kind of be the underneath route guy, the drag routes, the quick outs, slants, all that kind of stuff, right? So great to see that combination. Good that we should get another year of those guys with Owen throwing them the football. Just a great combination of talent there. Those guys are mature beyond their years, I would say, and just really, really great football players overall.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good to watch. It's going to be good to watch, Jared. Yeah, offense very productive. Who else do you want to shout out on the offense? Pretty productive day as well from Houston Thomas. Only 2 catches, but they were good catches. They were important catches. And Dan Dishman had a really, really important play down there on the goal line to have this big, I think, moment where it was really awesome to see all of UTSA's offense get behind Brandon High to push him in to the end zone on a goal line push after a play that was probably a millisecond away from getting whistled dead.
Yep. Just the ultimate example of playing until the whistle, man. That was my big takeaway on that. Great heads up play from Dan, and also cool to see the rest of the offense just all kind of huddle around Brandon and push him into the end zone.
It's the sequence, it's the sequence where, because High loses the 1-on-1. Dan comes behind him, and then it's just a mob. It's a mob of guys that push that pile forward, and there's a really fantastic sort of explosive moment of victory whenever they cross the goal line. You see all the guys kind of take credit in that touchdown together. Really, really nice to see. Really, really nice to see UTSA come together and kind of sort of fight for one another differently, man. It was symbolic.
I'm pretty sure that Dan is out of eligibility after this game. So if that is our final memory of Dan as a Roadrunner, that's a really cool way to go out, right? Not with a flashy touchdown catch and, game-winning reception or something like that, but just like that gritty, hard-nosed play.
In the game where he didn't have a catch, Jared. Have the ultimate highlight of the day on a lunch pail play where UTSA tight ends really make their mark here at this program. He goes and he gets the push into the end zone. There's not an assist that exists in football, but damn it, if there was, Dan Dishman would have it, man. Incredible day. Incredible. Yeah. symbolic play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who else on the offense
sure.
do you want to shout out?
I just think the running game overall, right? Like we just saw them continually get better the past month and a half, 2 months, something like that. And I just feel like it really hit its stride here against Coastal. They were missing what I think their top outside linebacker or their top inside linebacker, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken. But like their whole defensive line was there. Most of that defensive front was there. So I thought it was still a very impressive performance from UTSA, especially with Robert Henry being out. We mentioned Henderson, Hyde, Donnell all played very well. Donnell had some really, really tough runs that were very impressive. Good separation speed from Hyde and Henderson as well. But I thought the offensive line played very well. In addition, the CJ James I thought was great. He had a really strong into his season at UTSA. Slow start this year. I think he was kind of battling some doubt in his head or something in the beginning of the season, but he really came on strong and has probably been the best offensive lineman for UTSA, throughout the span of the season. And I thought Kamara Missouri played really well. He had some great blocks in the run game, and I think the whole offensive line did a really good job of, making some holes for these guys to run through. And I haven't done my film breakdown yet because, I've been traveling for the holidays and all of that. But I think when I go back, I think I'm going to see a lot of rushing lanes that just weren't there earlier in the season. And this is a pretty good Coastal defense, too, that they were able to do that against. So encouraging stuff. Right. And I think all of these guys are back next year on the offensive line. And they're going to get some guys back from injury as well. So, it was a rough year for the run game overall. Definitely didn't play out the way that we thought it was going to. But I think by the end of the season, it kind of got to where it should have been all along. And plenty of reason to expect that to just continue to improve next season as well.
Jeff Traylor mentioned, as the offense played really, really well. Where we really won the game was on special teams, Jared, which when you consider output-wise was an unbelievable day. You had a kickoff return for a touchdown from Chris Carpenter, who did also catch a ball or two. I think he also had a drop pass. He had an incredible kickoff return for a touchdown where he essentially went untouched with his speed all the way downfield, 93 yards. And then Tate Sandell gets you 3 field goals on drives that had otherwise died off for UTSA when they shouldn't have, to be quite honest with you. But I think kept the momentum going for the offense to come back and then score on the ensuing drive or whatever have you. But I think a very productive day when you consider the output. Yeah, I think Jeff Traylor's got a point. Special teams was very impressive for UTSA.
Yeah. Some additional ones. Kel Hogan only had 2 punts, but he averaged 47.5 yards per punt, which is pretty strong. He had 156-yard punt, which has got to be one of his longest of the season. Of course, Chris Carpenter had his kickoff return touchdown, but Mekhi Anderson had one as well. He went 34 yards on his, and man, the speed that he showed was crazy, right? I think
was impressive.
He's going to step right into where Chris Carpenter left off, right? So we'll have several years of him. He redshirted this year due to injury. So again, first game of the 2025 season, as Jeff Traylor put it. And then also, I don't know if you count this as defense or special teams, but Jacavian Rogers had an interception on a fake punt attempt as well. Pretty bad play from Coastal. That ball was underthrown by about 15 yards, but Rogers still went and got the interception, and he got to go celebrate in the end zone, beach zone at the Myrtle Beach Bowl, which I thought was cool and
huge moment.
Well worthy
huge
of a
moment.
penalty.
Yeah, huge moment. Yeah, to go get that interception. He went up and got it, and then you get to run all the other side of the field in a bowl game in which you put the game away and make sand angels. It was beautiful, Jared. It was beautiful. UTSA lounging in the sand at the Myrtle Beach Bowl.
Don't put a beach lounge in the end zone if you don't want players to use it. You know what I'm saying?
Let me tell you something. That ought to be, one of the greatest moments. If that's not, I mean, gosh, the best celebration of UTSA all time, dude. It's hard. It's hard. I can't think of something that's been that impressive that we've done, that creative that we've done. It was beautiful.
That's good stuff.
Beautiful.
I saw people also complaining that Rogers should have batted down that fake punt because UTSA would have had better field position. Then he caught it. I'm like, come on, guys. It's like a 35 to 7 bowl game right now. Like, this guy's a redshirt freshman. Let him have his moment. It's gonna be fine.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
I was glad to see the team have some fun out there.
That wasn't the only really impressive defensive play, Jared. UTSA's defense played really, really well and essentially dominated Coastal Carolina. Aside from the very end of the game, what we would call trash time, garbage time, Coastal Carolina was held scoreless to an absolute donut. And then in the fourth quarter, they get 15 points at the very, very end of the game. Call it the fifth quarter. But yeah, aside from that, UTSA's defense, without Jamori Robinson, the motor, the soul of UTSA's pass rush, goes and has a field day in Coastal Carolina's backfield. 10 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. UTSA's pass rush is just fine, doing just fine without their cornerstone. Good to see.
Yeah, Coastal had like their whole offensive line too. That's like one area that I don't think that they had guys enter the portal, or if they did, it was like a while back, right? So they had their starting 5 there, and UTSA's defense was just that good and that deep, right? We didn't really see one guy kind of step up as like the clear pass rush threat, but it was by committee, which is what we have seen for UTSA from most of the program's history. Is like sometimes you do have that 10 sack a guy leader, but most of the time you've just got a couple of guys that pitch in a couple a year, and it adds up, and you've got a great pass rush. And in some ways that's harder on an offense because you can't just scheme up like, oh, I'm going to have a double team on this guy, and we're going to have the running back, over there to help out or whatever. So, it's great to see. And I think we're going to see big steps forward from both Cam Cooper and Vic Shaw next year as pass rushers. And I always struggle to pronounce his name, but Inyawu should be back from his injury, and hopefully he'll be healthy and ready to go because he has the potential to be a big time pass rusher, and I'm sure UTSA will find a guy in the portal that can help out there as well. So encouraging stuff, but I wasn't too surprised. I mean, I really thought the pass rush would just continue to churn out production. They're very well coached from a technique, good athletes. So yeah, no surprise there, but 10 tackles for loss and 4 sacks in a bowl game is nice for sure.
Insane. It's insane, Jared. Yeah, absolute monstrous day. That's absolute monstrous day. And a big shout out to Brandon Brown, who Jeff Traylor shouted out in his post-game presser as well. Bear, I think he called him. 2 sacks on the day in his last game as a UTSA Roadrunner, and a guy who did not even consider the thought of skipping a bowl game. How dare you even ask him that question? And yeah, dude, it's an amazing thing to see. But yeah, someone that I think really embodies the 2-1-0 triangle of toughness here at UTSA, and has done it week in and week out consistently. Makes no noise about it. Very, 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 very clean player, tight all the time. And one of the best dances, I think, in UTSA's celebration. We're talking about UTSA celebrations, some of the greatest UTSA celebrations here. Brandon Brown's sack dance absolutely is a part of that list. Salute. Got to salute to Brandon Brown.
Yeah, great to see that dance a couple more times, and I think Brandon's got a future at the next level. So, excited to see him go and go on and do big things.
No doubt.
Joining a nice lineage of former Roadrunners in the NFL, I suspect. But we'll see how that plays out.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. He should have a bright future ahead of him.
Another guy that definitely deserves a shout out is true freshman Elijah Newell, making his first start in the bowl game, and he played pretty well. He graded out well in PFF, and he was tied for the lead in tackles on the team. I definitely didn't notice him doing anything glaringly wrong. So it's great to see that development, because early in the season, he had some rough times against Texas, and I think in the Memphis game, he got beat a couple times as well. So cool to see him continue to get better, and a lot of growth still for him to do. Good speed, good athlete. So it's great to see him get a start so early in his career, and he'll probably be another multi-year guy in that secondary for UTSA. So excited to see how he continues to grow and find his spot on this defense.
Yeah, that's big. That's big, Jared. I think it's big. Yeah, tied with Cyrus Duma for the lead in tackles on the day, and a big day for Cyrus as well. Consistent day, and we talk about another guy who's done a good job in embodying UTSA 210 triangle of toughness.
Yeah, another
We'd
guy's
be
gotten a lot
remiss not
better
to mention Cyrus.
throughout his time at UTSA as well. Is Cyrus Dumas?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, he quietly took over a starting spot from oh my gosh, he entered the transfer portal. I forgot his name already. Denver Harris.
Denver Harris. That's right. Wow. Yeah. What it's a I suppose a topic that we're going to have to cover on a different episode. But yeah, it's just one of those things. One of those things where a guy could come in with a lot of hype and have everyone ranting and raving about him, and a guy who's been here can go meet him out.
Yeah, it just
like
goes
that.
to show that sometimes player retention is more important than anything else, right? Because Dumas was on the team last year, went into the portal. UTSA got him back out of the portal. He didn't start,
Yeah.
right? He was a backup, and then as injuries piled up, he took on a bigger role, and then he kind of became a shutdown corner for UTSA late in the season. So,
yeah,
another great coaching job by Coach Graham. One of the best cornerback coaches maybe in the country, honestly.
Unbelievable stuff. What a great story. Yeah, but yeah, a guy who took the responsibility that it was given to him and absolutely owned it. Totally.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, that's a great story. That's a great story, Jared.
So while UTSA's defense really played incredible against Coastal, just giving up 15 points in Coastal's home stadium, there were a few plays where UTSA got beat pretty badly. I think like that second touchdown for Coastal, Milton just kind of got mixed up. He kind of got his ankles broken a little bit. He tripped, he fell, left the receiver wide open, right? So that was Coastal's biggest play of the game. And, you have a guy one-on-one, and I think the quarterback was looking at that receiver the whole way. So just kind of tough. Definitely could have been better coverage from Milton there. Better anticipation of the route, I would say. And then also Brevin Randall got away with one as well, because there was like a trick play from Coastal. They ran like a double pass. I think it was the receiver was going to throw it to the running back or something like that. And Randall got beat really, really badly. But thankfully the ball was the ball was slightly underthrown, but it was on target. The running back didn't really turn around to pinpoint the football.
Yeah, he didn't really
so
catch
he dropped
it. Yeah.
that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Randall got away with one there. But still a tough play from the offense. But you'd like to see Randall have a little bit better coverage there.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it, man.
Sure.
Defense was
sure.
nice.
But they were beaten up. They were beaten up on a young Tad Hudson and gave him a real proper welcome to collegiate football. I mean, this kid was getting assaulted all day long by just a dominant UTSA up front, and it was nasty. There were times you felt bad for the kid, but there was just nothing he could do, man. UTSA went out there and put on a show in the bowl game.
Yeah, such a tough defense for a young quarterback to face, because they can bring pressure in so many different ways, right? Like they can bring Danye off the edge. They can do the stunts with the defensive lineman. Jamal Liggins a good pass rusher. Martavius French. It's just like all the different complicated ways they can make life difficult for a quarterback is very impressive for sure.
Yeah, he wasn't terrible though. Tad Hudson, didn't throw any interceptions, didn't give the ball away.
No, he was respectable.
17 for 26, and he was able to stand up after every single time he got pummeled and take it again. Yeah. So you gotta love that from a quarterback. Yeah, it was respectable. Yeah. Not just pass rush, but shutting down Braden Bennett, carrying the football. Only 2.5 yards per carry for Braden Bennett on the ground. So UTSA also doing it on their rush defense as well.
Yeah, there are a few plays where it's like every single Roadrunner in the front five on the line of scrimmage was in the backfield on some of the handoffs. So yeah, just serious domination there.
So let's zoom out a little bit, Jared. Dude, 10 penalties on the day again for UTSA. It needs to be talked about. I'm tired of just this going by the wayside now for 13 weeks in a row. No one's talking about it. No one cares about it. We're treating it like it's not a big deal. It's a big freaking deal. For UTSA to have over 8.5 penalties committed per game, for UTSA to be, the second to last most penalized or most penalty yards in the country through 13 weeks of football. It's miserable. It's horrendous. It's pathetic. You can't preach, mental toughness and the 2-0 triangle of toughness. This is happening every single week. Jeff Traylor's asked about it in the post-game presser, deliberately very much asked about it. And he really just shrugs it off and laughs about the players running in the end zone and playing in the beach. That's not what the question was. The question was about unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, that you committed 10 penalties on the day, which you've done multiple times throughout the year. I think that was the 5th 10-plus penalty game of the year for UTSA. Just brushing it off. Oh, we're just playing in the sand. We're at the Myrtle Beach Bowl playing in the sand. That's what we do at the beach, isn't it? Come on, this is a serious issue. And we've had losses. We shouldn't be playing for 500. A reason why we were playing to be one game over 500 was because we've had so many damn penalties all season long. Had we not had so many penalties, we'd arguably already be a couple of games over 500. It's bad, man. It's really, really bad. And we're pretending like it doesn't exist. Everyone is. It's insane.
Yeah.
To me, it's insane.
Yeah. I agree. It's got to get addressed. It's not been addressed this year. If you look at the guys that are departing, probably like the top 4 or 5 penalty getters are going to be leaving the program. So, if it's an individual problem with those guys, then maybe it's resolved, but, addition by subtraction kind of deal. But I feel like Traylor's teams have always been heavily penalized, but this year they just weren't good enough to overcome that. So I feel like the ceiling is not going to be realized until that problem gets addressed. And, I know Jeff, is very careful with his guys, and he doesn't want to get too hard on them. He wants them playing free and all that, but you got to find a way to stamp it out, because you can't compete at a championship level at this level of play with 10 penalties a game.
Cannot.
There's no way.
You cannot. 8.7 penalties per game. This was the 6th 10 penalty day for the Roadrunners. 6 on the year. Over 10 penalties committed for UTSA. It's unbelievable. 7 over 9. And so and Jared, to your point, no, 8.7 penalties per game for the 2024 Roadrunners. 2023, 5.6 penalties per game.
That's a big difference, though. That's
three penalties less from one season to the next. 3 penalties less. 7 penalties per game in 2022. It was a championship year. 5 penalties per game in 2021. A championship year. So no, Jared, the penalties are not always this bad under Jeff Traylor. In 2020-24, it was significantly worse. So it needs to be talked about. I just don't appreciate that we're not just calling it what it is. Let's just call it what it is, please. It's a problem. It's a problem. This team commits too many penalties. They're undisciplined. Need to figure that out.
While the penalty issue was not addressed, it was not resolved, competitiveness on the road, at least, was answered in this game. I know UTSA was the home team because it's a bowl game or whatever, but it was a real road victory for UTSA. Even like the music being played over the PA was very clearly, where Coastal is the home team.
That's wild.
Yeah, I know.
That was quite the soundtrack coming through.
Not even an attempt to be neutral. And I hate like the field neutrality stuff for a conference championship, because I feel like you've earned the right to host. You should have that home field advantage.
Correct.
But for a bowl game, you just got selected by the committee. You didn't earn that spot per se over the other team that also got selected for it. So that was a little bit of an annoying factor in the contest, but it was just nice to see UTSA play clean football for the most part. The execution was really strong. Obviously you can't play perfect over, 150 snaps on both sides of the ball or whatever it may be, but just really, really good showing from UTSA. And, they had that slow start, but they overcame it. Other than the penalties, everything was pretty clean, pretty smooth. The team looked comfortable. Owen in particular, probably his best road performance of the year. So great to see, and hopefully going forward into next year, it'll continue in that positive trend. But you got to replace almost the whole defense. So who's to say? Maybe offense will be better on the road, defense will be worse on the road. We'll have to see how it plays out. But would I feel a lot better in the position we are now, where at least we have evidence of a road win, of a solid 4-quarter
Sure.
road showing to take us into the 2025 season, as opposed to if UTSA would have lost this game. It's like, well, they didn't play on the road well at all last year, so it's a little bit better, but still plenty to be
To
concerned
do
about.
it in a bowl game is good. You know, you can hang your hat on that as well. Jared, UTSA wears the lights out uniforms on the road in a bowl game. Yes, they do get the win, but does it feel a little corny that we wore the lights out uniforms, yes or no, in a bowl game on national television, ESPN? You know what? It's UTSA on the national stage. Should we be broadcasting the dang school colors properly in navy and orange? Or is it time to just go ahead and, like I said on the immediate reaction episode, petition to the UT Board of Regents that we need to just change the official university colors from navy and orange to black and white? It could be a part of the whole UT Health merger thing as well. We just go black and white now. We identify with the San Antonio Spurs, City of San Antonio. Really cool collaboration, potentially. What is it? Because I don't even know. If I'm just a person watching UTSA football for the first time on the eve of Christmas Eve, making my coffee, looking at ESPN, I'm thinking, I don't know what color the schools are, because I definitely don't think they're navy and orange.
Yeah. It is a rule in the UT system that you have to have orange in your school colors if you're in the UT system. So they would at least have to have some orange trim in there if they were going to make it official.
Really Halloween.
But no, I mean, I think it's just going to be something specific to this season that we'll remember. UTSA is still undefeated in black uniforms overall, through the whole duration of the program. But I think we needed some extra help this season in the luck department, and sometimes your uniform combo is your access to that luck. So, we'll take it, but hopefully next year they can find a way to win in the school colors consistently and won't need to resolve to gimmick alternates.
What is your over under on, the auction price for the Owen McCown lights out jersey, right? Like, or if UTSA had unlimited, if Jared Calvis had unlimited resources, what is he willing to pay for the Owen McCown lights out jersey?
I'm not a big memorabilia collector myself,
sure.
But I feel like the Owen McCown blackout jersey's got to fetch at least $1 or $2 grand, don't you think?
It's got to. Someone's got to pony that up. That thing is a big piece of UTSA history, especially considering what Owen McCown could go on and do at his time.
Yeah. Now that jersey is going to be pretty scuffed up. It will be very game worn.
Oh my gosh.
Much more than usual.
It's historic. It ought to be, and oh man, it's just awesome.
Yep.
So it's a big win, Jared. 7-6 is absolutely tremendous for the UTSA Roadrunners. How do you think that measures up with what this team expected of themselves? Maybe in the beginning of the year, in October of the year, whenever things are really, really back against the wall.
Yeah, I think we could get into the whole kind of season recap, grading, and all that stuff in another full episode, because I think you gotta give it some room to breathe and really do the deep dive analysis. But I think 7-6, it's solid. I mean, I think they salvaged the season. I think it should have been a lot better. 9 wins should have been a given. The Rice and Tulsa losses just still really sting, and those should have been easy wins. But overall, I think if you look back and you're like, this is the first season after you lose your best quarterback in program history, and you not only make a bowl game, but also win a bowl game in a road environment to come out with 7 wins, you got to feel pretty good about that on paper, right? It's really rare outside the true blue bloods of the sport to be able to replace a player of that caliber and not have some serious drop off. And UTSA did have a bit of that drop off, but it didn't end up being as severe as it could have been. And even though I think this roster was talented enough for them to have accomplished a lot more, I still think they did an okay job of getting to a respectable win-loss record by the end of the year.
That right there, Jared, to lose a generational talent in Frank Harris, to lose the most productive offense that you've ever had in program history, and to turn around the very next season fielding an entirely new offense and to go 7-6 with the bowl victory is pretty insane. It's pretty unheard of. It's incredibly respectable, incredibly commendable, incredibly impressive. You have to understand what UTSA had to recycle, replenish. I mean, anyone that's been watching the program at all over the last couple of years, I mean, look at what you had to replace in just one single season to have that sort of turnaround. The growth, I think, is really impressive for this team, Jared, and it's zoomed out looking at it. Incredibly impressive, I think, what UTSA was able to pull off considering what they lost from 2023.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think at the end of the day, it deserves its kudos. 7-6. Jared has season salvaged in our show notes, and I think that's probably the best way to put it, because 6-7 would not feel like a salvage season, but a bowl win at 7-6 and a 5 over 500, you feel really, really nice going into the offseason as a UTSA fan. You should feel good about how this team finished as a fan. So should the players in the UTSA locker room. But the season was indeed salvaged at 7-6 with a bowl victory. Totally.
Yeah. Yep. Well, any last thoughts on the Myrtle Beach Bowl before we jump into our final topic here?
Back-to-back bowl wins for the UTSA Roadrunners. Yeah. It's big. It's important.
Yeah.
Let's keep it going. Let's keep the streak going.
Yeah. You got to stay tied or ahead of Texas State in bowl victories for the program. So hopefully,
Jeff Traylor,
hopefully our buddies in North Texas will do us a solid and knock off the Bobcats. Keep that. What's
my
it, like
gosh.
a 6-1 record for the AAC in bowl play right now? It's been a very, very impressive bowl season for the American.
It has been impressive. It's the only time in my life I will ever root for the Mean Green, but we need them to get this win over the Bobcats. Let's hope that they do it. Yeah. 5 winning seasons for Jeff Traylor, I think, is incredibly impressive. And it's good that UT and Texas State are in their bowl game together and that they're both, playing good football right now. But until they achieve 5 consecutive winning seasons under the same single head coach, I mean, like UTSA is playing at a different level right now. They've really, really put something special together here. So I think that needs to be mentioned too, Jared.
Hey, I'll throw this in. I think Luttrell may have had 5 straight winning seasons, but they grew tired of him and they didn't appreciate him and they ran him out of town. And then they downgraded, and they're not as good now as they were in the trail, right? So let's keep that in mind as UTSA fans. Let's be appreciative of Traylor, even when he's not winning 10 games a year, because he's a tremendous coach. And it's an interesting debate around the coaching job that he did this year, because I think him and his staff put UTSA in the position where they had to fight for bowl eligibility at the end of the year. But you do also have to give them credit for developing a young roster, for keeping the roster together for the most part, keeping guys in the program. And just getting better, playing their best football at the end of the season, which is preferable to playing your best football at the start of the season.
Yes, have an incredibly strong finish to the year, absolutely. And I love the Seth Luttrell argument that you brought up before on this program, Jared. And who does the Mean Green think they are? Get rid of Seth. So great job. Kudos to Jeff Traylor. Kudos to the Roadrunners. One non-UTSA note that we did want to hit on, a pretty big news item for NCAA football and UTSA football, respectively. Jared?
Yeah, so there was, it just feels like an everyday thing for college athletics now, but another monumental eligibility ruling decided by the courts of law.
Yeah,
Diego Pavia, a near Roadrunner, ended up committing to Vanderbilt and had an incredible season at Vanderbilt. Knocked off Alabama, and he'll always be a legend in Nashville. He very much enjoying the spotlight that he's receiving, and especially the NIL money that he's receiving. So his lawyers sued the NCAA with the argument that his time spent playing in junior college should not count towards his NCAA eligibility, which it's kind of a crazy argument. Because it's been however many years that's been the case, and no one had really complained until now, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
But the courts sided with
However,
Pavia.
Jared, they argued using NIL, which is what
Right.
is so incredible. Pavia sues the NCAA, arguing that counting a player's JUCO against his overall NCAA eligibility violates antitrust laws
Right.
because it restricts an athlete's ability to profit from NIL, name, image, and likeness. Is unbelievable. And so this is how it wins in the courts.
Right. And I don't agree with that argument, because he could have signed NIL, like a JUCO player can sign NIL deals. There's nothing stopping a junior college player from creating money off their name, image, and likeness, right? Just the mere fact that Diego started his career before, I don't know if that's true or not. If he started his career before NIL was permissible or not, shouldn't matter, right? It's not the NCAA's fault that he wasn't recruited out of high school. You know what I mean? And now you're going to end up in a situation where a lot of high school athletes are not going to get opportunities to play at the next level, because these JUCO guys are going to stick around for another year, potentially 2 more years. Like, we'll see how things end up shaking out. But from the antitrust perspective, there's very little that the NCAA can do to kind of defend these eligibility decisions, right? Because these guys are not employees, so there's not much that the NCAA can do to restrict their compensation or anything like that. So the antitrust argument is valid. And I've been telling people for a while now, like, this stuff is going to become more common. I truly believe that if the NCAA can't find a way to classify and treat the players like employees, that there will be no eligibility rules at all, right? I don't think it's far-fetched to say that someone can take an antitrust argument to court and say that they should be able to play in college as long as they want to, because it's preventing those players from receiving compensation, right? If they don't have the ability to play in the NFL, wouldn't you want to stay at, an SEC school and make $75K a year, just, being a backup running back for as long as you can,
Yeah.
right?
Dude, that's
Right,
crass.
100%. So I do think, like, we'll see some change there. With the House settlement coming in this summer, schools will be able to, compensate players directly. I think they'll be able to sign those players to contracts. So, I think we'll see some improvement slowly, but we have to have a serious reconstruction of how player eligibility is determined. Player to school NCAA relationships have to be codified differently. There has to be a more legal framework that can really hold up to legal scrutiny, which right now we don't have, right? And so you're going to see more stuff like this come out, and it's going to get ugly. But I guess to pivot to talk about it from a UTSA perspective, I think the Roadrunners are in a pretty good position to benefit from this ruling, right? We have seen UTSA have a lot of success recruiting at the junior college level, because a lot of the power programs have pretty much abandoned JUCO recruiting, and they just recruit out of the portal now from FBS and FCS players. So, if you look at the guys that UTSA is bringing in every year, they've been very impressive. They've been able to get a level of athlete that they wouldn't be able to get recruiting at the high school level or out of the portal. So some of those guys have already committed or may commit to coming back to UTSA for another year, and that only strengthens this roster, and it gives them better roster continuity.
Yeah, absolutely, Jared. Absolutely. I think UTSA does benefit from it. Who are some of the guys that could potentially benefit from this JUCO eligibility?
Martavius French is the one guy that has committed to coming back for another year. Now, his statement had me a little worried, because it didn't say I'm coming back to UTSA next year, but said he's coming back for his extra year. And like I said, there is still one more transfer portal window that UTSA will have to make it through in the summertime. But I think for French, it makes sense to stay. He's already had the experience at the power forward level at Tennessee. He's going to be the clear leader of the defense if he comes back. He'll be the number 0 player on defense, I'm sure. He already has very gaudy stats, but he's probably realistic that he's probably not a big time NFL recruit, right? So if he can stay here and put together the best resume he possibly can for the next level, and make some money while he's doing it, it's awesome. And we'll see if he chooses to stick at UTSA or looks in the portal. But I think for him, staying would make sense, because he'll probably be one of the top paid guys on the team for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Good point.
Jamori Robinson is another guy that, he got an extra year of eligibility because he was a JUCO player, but he announced yesterday that he's going into the portal. Personally, I still think he probably ends up playing at the next level. I think his measurements, his combine testing, all that stuff is going to be pretty crazy. But for him, putting his name in the portal makes sense because if you don't get a good grade evaluation from NFL scouts, then he's a guy that can get paid at the power level, right? So going in the portal is a fallback. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Jamori can get his money, no doubt. He deserves it.
No doubt about that. He could get Trey Moore level money probably if we're being real. 500K plus, I think is safe to say. Yeah,
no doubt.
So and again, like UTSA already had to plan their roster, assuming all these guys were gone, right? So any that's going in the portal, it doesn't really hurt UTSA because they've already recruited guys to replace that production, replace that position. It's just an added bonus if any of these guys do decide to come back. But one guy I'm really crossing my fingers will stick around, and we talked about a lot of this podcast, is Cyrus Dumas. He had a really great end of the season. We already know that Zay Frazier is going into the league. He's reaffirmed his commitment to do so he's gone for sure. Denver Harris got into the transfer portal yesterday. So I haven't seen a commitment from Dumas to come back, but I think he's another guy where it makes a lot of sense, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't think he's going to be a surefire starter at a Power 4 program, but I think he can really blossom at UTSA. You look at the development track record under Coach Graham of putting Tariq Woolen into the draft. Zay Frazier is heading in that direction, right? Kim Alexander, was able to get a ton of money at Oregon. So I think for Dumas, it makes sense to stick around for another year as a starter and really establish yourself as a shutdown corner. Make some money at UTSA while you're doing it and see where things go from there. So would love to have him back, and I'm really crossing my fingers that he's there for spring practice.
Yeah. That's a big one.
And then, Robert Henry is another guy that was a JUCO player as well. And he's an interesting one, right? UTSA's running back room is pretty loaded, right? Those young guys have shown the ability to produce. It's a tougher decision for him and for UTSA as well. Like, do you let him walk? Do you even ask him to come back?
Does he have other options? Does he have a lot of other options? What do those other options look like? Yeah, but it's definitely one of those situations where the youth has blossomed here. It's clear that it's time to sort of hand the baton over. The original running back room that everyone sort of anticipated didn't end up being on the level that they needed to be. And Robert Henry was one of those guys who he was more consistent of that room, but it still wasn't a great output. He got better, I think, as the season progressed, Jared. I don't know about that one.
Has Brennan Hyde shown enough to be considered the starter going into next season over a returning Robert Henry? I mean, I think that's going to be a battle for sure, at worst.
It would be a battle. But it's not a surefire quite yet.
Yeah. And another question is Robert Henry's track record enough to get serious consideration from Power 4 programs in the portal? I think the answer to that is probably yes, but I don't think it's a slam dunk either.
Yeah.
He's in an interesting situation for sure. I haven't seen any kind of announcement on what he plans to do. If I'm UTSA, I would take him back, but I would also make it apparent, like, we're not going to hand you the starting spot. You're going to be battling with High for that and see how he responds to that. And if he says, that's ridiculous, then you can let him walk,
Yeah.
It's interesting, dude. I do not envy like the GMs, the player personnel guys across college football right now. I mean,
that's what time it is. It's brutal, man. It's roster evaluation time, Jared.
Well, you've already done all your roster planning and your evaluation and stuff, and then this court ruling comes out of nowhere, and you got to throw everything out the window. Like, think of how many guys are entering the portal now. Guys like Jamori Robinson. I mean, if you're like, an SEC GM or player personnel guy, and you may be kicking yourself that you went and got some pass rusher out of the portal, and now Jamori Robinson is there, and he's twice as good as the guy that you just got, and you already committed,
and you could $200K
in NIL money to this guy. Yeah, I mean, dude, it's a mess, man. I really feel bad for these guys. They don't make the big bucks like the head coaches make, but they have to, really carry the burden of a lot of these difficult decisions. And facing like the lack of stability and organization from the sport. It's really rough. And to do it over the holidays too, man. It really sucks. It's brutal. The sport's in a bad state right now.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, man. That's tough, dude.
Yeah.
Yeesh. Well, Jared, the ever-changing landscape that it is. We'll cover it here.
Absolutely. Keep you guys in the loop. I know it is hard to keep up with all these changes, and we'll do our best to keep you all abreast of the developments for sure. Well, Adrian, as we wrap things up, I do want to say it's a big day for UTSA basketball today. Both the men and women have a conference game. We're recording this on December 29th. The men are playing at Army. I guess that's not a conference game, right? Army's football only. But
technically not. Yeah, they're football only.
Yeah. But the ladies are playing Charlotte, and they keep this win streak going. And, you may see them in the top 25. So I'm excited to follow those two games as we transition into non-football season following UTSA's bowl victory.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yep. Well, cool. As always, we'll wrap things up with a special end-of-the-year shout-out to all of our Patreon subscribers. Thank you guys for your continued support for our work here at Alamo Audible. And thank you especially to everyone who has been so active in the Patreon chat. I love how every time there's a portal entry, everyone's giving their 2 cents to the player in there. It's a lot of fun for sure. A lot of good debates being had there as always. So thank you to our Board of Trustees members, Digi Teak, John Otwell, Gary and Ruben represent the UTSA Burke Tailgate, Ray Redding and BB Apparel, Brandon Grill and the Grill Realty Group, and the Elizabeth Proficient Benefit Solutions, Ian McClendon of Secret LLC, Javan Townsend, President of the DFW Chapter of the UTSA Alumni Association, Ryan Squares, Watermark Construction, UTSA Annual Giving, Artisan Vapor and CBD, Wayne Gonzalez and the Runners Rising Project, and additionally, our big money donors, Ben Tovar, the Bunch Family, Zach Esperdequeta, the San Antonio Podcast Network, Alejandro Benavides, Dan Nerdahl, host for On the Bird Bath, Jacob Vassos, Board President for the UTSA Alumni Association, John Nally, Rick Cortez of Routed Road Grillers, Sumner McDaniel, UTSA King Bowser, Maddie, and last but not least, Hope Apparel, where if you have not used your 15% off your first offer coupon code, you could use it on a UTSA bomber jacket. That is terrific. I've had some friends receive theirs in the mail already, and they had great things to say about it. So go and grab one of those with coupon code UTSA once home field to get 15% off of your first order. And that'll wrap it up for us here. Adrian and I were just talking off air. We got to do like a kind of a full season recap, full season breakdown soon. So stay tuned for that episode. Of course, we'll have basketball coverage and all that. I know Dan has an Around the Bird Bath episode in the works as well. So stay tuned. Football season ends, but the coverage does not. So we'll see you guys back really, really soon. And have a safe new year. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.